Let's set the scene. Imagine you're at a dinner party, right? And someone casually mentions that your deepest, most tightly held political opinion is just completely wrong. Now, notice what happens in your body before your brain even fully processes their words. Your shoulders tighten up, your chest closes slightly, and boom, a massive defensive reflex activates. You aren't just annoyed. You feel like you're literally under attack. Well, in this explainer, we're decoding the ancient biological hardware that's secretly sabotaging our modern conversations. We're going to look at exactly why your brain treats a simple debate like a physical assault, how stress hormones completely hijack your logic, and the precise psychological tools you need to override your primal instincts so you can never lose your cool again.
So let me ask you a direct and, hey, maybe a slightly embarrassing question. Have you ever been locked in a fierce internet argument with a total stranger and you actually felt your heart pounding in your chest as you furiously typed out a reply to, user 69420? Look, I want to assure you right now, this isn't a sign of weakness. It's definitely not a personal failing. It's a universal glitch. This is literally your primal survival instinct trying to save your life from an imaginary predator hiding inside a smartphone notification. Your biology is just completely overreacting to the whole situation.
Section 1. The evolutionary false alarm. So, to really get this glitch, we have to look back. For the vast majority of human evolutionary history, being rejected by your social group basically meant certain death. Out in the ancestral world, exile was a literal death sentence. Because of this brutal historical reality, your amygdala, which is your brain's ultimate threat detection system, well, it's not very good at nuance. To your ancient brain hardware, a threat is a threat, period. It doesn't cleanly distinguish between the thought, hey, this person disagrees with my tax policy, and the thought, oh no, a saber-toothed tiger is threatening my survival. It just completely lacks the sophistication to tell the difference between a physical predator and a differing perspective.
Section 2. The emotional hijacking.
Now here's why this false alarm is absolutely lethal to your ability to actually win an argument or learn something new. When you encounter ideological conflict, you experience what scientists call an emotional hijacking. This happens when the primitive parts of your brain, the ones designed strictly for physical survival, completely take over the sophisticated logical regions responsible for your strategic thinking. Almost instantly, your nervous system just floods with potent stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. You are no longer navigating an intellectual landscape. Nope, your brain has flipped the switch right back to raw survival mode.
Let's look at the immediate physical toll here, because the physiological symptoms are severe. Your attention drastically narrows. Your cognitive flexibility severely reduced. Your working memory becomes impaired. Your heart rate violently spikes. And as a direct result of all this, your reasoning quality instantly plummets. In this highly charged state, you're no longer evaluating an opponent's argument at all. You're simply protecting your territory. And honestly, this is exactly why debates so rarely change anyone's mind in the heat of the moment. Both you and the person you're arguing with are operating in a mild threat response. That's a biological state fundamentally incompatible with open-minded evaluation.
Here is a wild psychological reality check that we all really need to hear. When you get angry in a debate, you often feel like your logic is getting sharper and more precise, right? Well, it isn't. Your brain is just dumping adrenaline into your system so you can physically hit harder or run faster. If you try to debate while your amygdala is flashing red and your body is flooded with cortisol, you are essentially trying to play a high-stakes game of chess while actively running away from a bear. Think about how completely absurd that is. It simply doesn't work. The exact same physiological state that helps you escape a predator is actively sabotaging your ability to navigate a complex discussion. You're fighting a war when you really should be solving a puzzle.
Section 3. Engineering psychological safety.
So, how do we actually fix this? You can't just tell your ancient hardware to calm down. Anyone who has ever been furious knows that literally never works. To restore your critical thinking, you have to actively engineer what's called psychological safety. In the context of a debate or a challenging conversation, psychological safety simply means that you feel unthreatened enough to actually consider the possibility that you might be wrong. Reaching this state is the absolute prerequisite for turning a hostile war of words back into a solvable puzzle. Without this foundational sense of safety, your amygdala is going to keep the blast doors firmly shut over your higher reasoning centers.
To achieve this safety, we can use a practical two-step psychological framework called the cognitive override. Step 1 is cognitive reappraisal. Instead of viewing your opponent's counterargument as this massive threat to your very identity, you've got to consciously reframe it as a puzzle to be solved. Remember, viewing a challenge as a threat rapidly triggers that logic-destroying fight-or-flight response. But deliberately reframing it as an interesting puzzle? That activates your brain's curiosity and exploration systems, which instantly enhances your cognitive performance. Step 2 is the self-directed question. Basically, you quietly interrogate yourself to fully disarm those primal alarms. And that actually brings us to the single most powerful tool in this entire explainer.
Section 4. The ultimate debate hack.
To completely disarm your amygdala, you must ask yourself one highly uncomfortable but incredibly powerful four-word question. What would change my mind? So why does this specific question work like absolute magic on your biology? Because it's self-directed. Nobody else is attacking you. You are quietly, safely interrogating yourself. Your amygdala finds this internal, self-guided process significantly less alarming than an external attack from a stranger. It basically pre-commits you to the idea that shifting your position is actually possible, which means your core identity is no longer on the line.
Now, most people view changing their mind in the middle of a debate as this humiliating, crushing defeat. But we need to reframe this right now. Epistemically, updating your beliefs in response to new evidence is not weakness. It is the literal definition of functioning correctly as a thinking organism. Changing your mind isn't a failure, it is a massive intellectual superpower. So the next time you feel that tightness in your chest when someone disagrees with you, I want you to smile, take a deep breath, and realize your ego is completely safe. You aren't losing a fight. You're just running a significantly superior operating system than the person yelling at you.
A genuine master of debate doesn't let their primal survival instincts do their thinking for them. As long as you allow your amygdala to treat a simple disagreement over policy like a literal death sentence, your logic will always be a slave to your adrenaline. But by recognizing this evolutionary false alarm, regulating your emotional state, and demanding psychological safety through a cognitive override, you transform from a reactive, shadowboxing animal into an unshakable intellectual heavyweight. So I'll leave you with this final thought. Will you let your inner caveman run your next conversation, or are you ready to take control of your own biology? The choice and the critical thinking that comes with it is entirely yours.